Hello everyone and welcome to our third Governor member video. My name is Stephen Baines and I am currently the lead governor for CHFT. We are producing these videos regularly in an effort to keep in touch with our members and members of the public, whilst face-to-face engagement isn't possible. Shortly you will hear from my fellow governor Annette Bell. Annette is coming to the end of her second term with the Trust and is going to share with you her experiences of being a governor for the last 6 years. Then you will hear from our star guest, Lucy Breaks. Lucy is a community physiotherapist who has spent the last year working with patients recovering from COVID, and she is going to describe how that has been for her. Finally, I will answer some questions that have been put to us by two of our members. Whilst the Trust continues to treat COVID patients and also introduce plans to reset and get services that have been on hold back up and running, part of us looking ahead sees us progressing the plans to invest £196 million from the Department of Health and Healthcare in Kirklees and Calderdale. In March, we launched a dedicated website outlining the future plans for the two hospitals and invited our local communities to share their views in the plans. These plans can still be seen on the website www.chftfutureplans.co.uk. We hope to be applying for planning permission for all the developments soon and see work starting by the end of the year at HRI and CRH next year. I will now hand over to Annette.
Hello everyone, my name is Annette Bell and I am in my 6th and final year of being a governor, having almost completed 2 terms of 3 years. My constituency is East Halifax and Bradford. I am 79 years old and not very comfortable with the IT and the Teams meetings that have been forced on us by COVID-19. I became a governor because I believed that ordinary people like me, who have plenty of experience at the receiving end of patient care, should have a voice when decisions are being made about that care. During my 6 years, I have undertaken duties such as food tasting, inspection of patient areas and behind the scenes areas at both hospitals. I have also taken part in workshops and meetings with the Board of Directors and the non-executive directors, attended and chaired divisional reference groups to receive updates on anything from building works to advances in community care. I have enjoyed meeting and interacting with a wide range of people in the 5 years before COVID. The learning, exchange of ideas and information at meetings has been stimulating and most of the time interesting. Yes, I would recommend being a governor to anyone. It is an important role and in my experience, governors can and do make a difference. At CHFT, governors are listened to with respect and their views are taken into account when decisions are being made by the directors. I would recommend anyone considering standing up for election to go for it, whatever your age or experience. Remember, if you are lucky enough to be accepted as a candidate, the final voting is done by Trust members and you need to appeal to them as someone who will be an active and effective governor. So give as much information as you can about yourself and your commitment in your application letter, as that is what they will base their decisions upon. Thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed hearing about my experience as a governor. Goodbye and good luck to you all.
My typical day was going into our office to see the rest of the team first thing in the morning. I might then go to a patient's home to do some exercise with them. I might give them advice on how to clear their chest of sputum, otherwise known as phlegm, and I would check that they were using their inhalers properly. Then I would go into Calderdale Royal Hospital to assess someone's suitability for our pulmonary rehabilitation group. This would involve me asking a lot of questions about their condition and how it affected them. Then we would do a shuttle walk test, which would help us to know what level of exercise they would be able to do. In the afternoon was the best bit of the day, the exercise classes. We ran them at local rugby clubs with groups of up to 18 patients with 3 members of staff. Everyone would exercise, including the staff. Music and laughing with people getting fitter without even realising it. Then everyone would sit down and have a cup of tea and a biscuit and listen to an education session. This might be about managing their condition, how to get the best out of their food, and how their medications can help them. Then everyone would go home and it would all start over again the next day. My role during the pandemic was completely different. Initially, back in April, I was redeployed to Huddersfield Royal Infirmary to work with the respiratory team, supporting them in the intensive care unit and on the wards, both with COVID and routine patients. It was a really scary time. I'd not worked in a hospital for over 13 years, so this made me feel really, really anxious. However, when I got there, I found that the skills I had came back, and I found it extremely satisfying to help people who needed rehabilitation once they'd survived their ICU stay. After a few months, I returned back to the community. It was impossible to see our usual client group, so as a team we decided the right thing to do was to help people who had had COVID and been ventilated and then finally discharged home. We had the necessary skills, so myself and my colleague James Lendon began seeing Calderdale patients discharged home from hospital. These patients were extremely deconditioned, very short of breath, with symptoms that nobody knew if they were normal or not. The issues were not just physical. Psychologically, both patients and their families had been through a huge trauma. We would see these patients twice a week for the first 6 weeks, then once a week for a further 6 weeks. Very. The initial shock of the pandemic itself and then being redeployed into the hospital, I was honestly petrified. I'd drive from my house 10 miles to Huddersfield Royal Infirmary and not pass a car on the whole journey, even on the bypass on a Friday morning. I felt like I was in a spoof horror movie. At times, while I was in the hospital, I would drive home and cry because the patients that were there the day before were not there the next morning when I went back, and some of them were younger than me. I think the worst bit was that there were no visitors, no family by the side. Then when I moved back into the community, there was more fear, because in the hospital, PPE was everywhere, protocols were easy to follow, everything was easily accessible. When you start going into people's homes, you're scared to even sit on the sofa. And the PPE in the community is so much more tricky. Trying to put gloves and pinnies on when it's blowing with wind and raining, and it was really hard. The rehabilitation of these patients was also extremely challenging, with lots of different problems. No one person was the same, so we did the best that we could with the knowledge that we had. I've experienced a whole range of emotions when working with COVID patients. Initially in the hospital, I felt sad, and it all felt a bit hopeless at times. But then the joy when we got our first patient off a ventilator and onto the ward was just brilliant. We rehabbed him to be able to stand and walk again, and that's why I love my job, giving people back their independence and helping them to achieve their goals. Working with COVID patients when they came home from hospital, again, at times it made me sad. Some young people that I saw have permanent changes to their function that they will never regain. I visited regularly, so I felt that I went through a range of emotions with them. Elation at being home, grief for what they had lost, and a sense of gratitude to have made it through. I am always optimistic, and this helped me to work through this time. Seeing people go back to work or play with the children again is the most wonderful feeling to know I have helped them to achieve this, and I've never felt prouder to say that I work for the NHS. I love watching comedy, and just lately I've been watching reruns, box sets of Phoenix Nights and The Peep Show, things like Absolutely Fabulous. I really enjoy. I also love chocolate. It's a good distraction for me. I've got a little dog and I walk with her in the hills, which really takes my mind elsewhere. I'm a massive football fan, Halifax Town are my team. I really miss going to the Shea to watch a game, but it's not quite the same on an internet stream. Being outdoors with my children on the bikes or playing football is also a great distraction. My two boys are aged 6 and 7 and they make me smile every single day. I have a close-knit group of friends that I'm now able to go to a beer garden with, so that's giving me massive smiles. The opening up of places and the return of some form of normality is definitely something to get excited about. And if Halifax win, that's also a bonus.
Thank you to Lucy and Annette for their contributions to this video. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about their experiences. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind you that we have governor elections coming up very soon. In my experience, being a governor is very interesting and rewarding, and I would encourage anyone who is interested in getting more involved in the strategic direction of local health services to give it a go. We have vacancies this year in all our constituencies. To be eligible to stand, you must live in Calderdale or Kirklees, be over 18 and be a member of the Trust. Joining is easy. Simply visit the About Us page on our website, www.cht.nhs.uk. If you would like more information about being a governor, please contact our membership office, which is membership@cht.nhs.uk or 01484 347 342. Finally, I will now answer the questions that have been submitted by two of our members. The first question is, did CHFT lose staff? Did any staff die because of the pandemic and how many? And our response is, no. Fortunately, we have not lost any CHFT staff to the pandemic. Some colleagues have suffered family losses, so we have all been touched by the pandemic. The second question is, have all staff had the vaccine? The ones who haven't, what are their concerns? Our response is, we have a robust campaign to ensure all our staff have the opportunities to have their vaccines, as well as all our healthcare partners across the patch. We are aware of concerns which are monitored nationally, and we have tried to address these and reassure colleagues throughout. The next question is, what effect has Brexit had on the recruitment and retention of staff? Our response is, we don't believe that there has been any effect on turnover of staff. We have not completed any EU recruitment programs within the last year due to the pandemic, so it would be difficult to make any clear connections to our recruitment abilities since Brexit. The final question is, as therapy volunteer at HRI, usually bringing in my dog to visit patients and staff, what plans are there to allow such visiting again? and our response is, we are waiting to hear on that front and can't wait for you to bring you and your pet back in. Because the therapy impact for patients and staff is amazing and a joy for everyone involved. As soon as we can safely allow you to return, you will be the first to know. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you have found it of interest. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you have found it of interest. Stay safe, everyone.